So good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Sarcona. There is a question part at the end, but if something pops up and you do have a question, feel free. You could just unmute and ask the question. I have the chat over here, so it's hard to watch both of them. So I'm an instructor at Macomb Community College. As Sarah said, I teach in the Media and Communication Arts area. Today, I'm going to talk about our industry, the jobs that are out there, the pathways that students can take. It's a lot, especially for this 1 hour presentation. We could talk like for hours and hours about all the different things that are out there. So just little brief information about Macomb. Macomb is really there to help students get to those next steps. We have a wide, diverse population. Our student ratio is 24:1, 200 degrees. I'm sure most of you know a lot about Macomb, so I'm just going to skip until we get to this one. One of the things that is important in our industry is getting a proper education. Macomb is obviously on the lower side of things. You may have heard of CCS or some of the other art schools that are out there. We are not CCS. We have our own stuff. We teach a different way. We are preparing students for a different area. Our goal is that we're getting students ready at a affordable cost without going into it. A lot of our industry is students aren't aware of it. Right. So we want to make sure that they are choosing and going down the right path. And so we have a lot of students who come into our area and they do kind of bounce around and kind of explore until they find what it is that they're passionate about. There's our locations. So our program is called Media and Communication Arts, and that's a mouthful and it's very, open-ended. But basically, you can sum up every job or every-ish job in our industry as if it's visual, it's us. So if you've ever seen commercials or advertisements or animations or logos or any of the things you're seeing on this screen here, like that's our industry. If we can make money doing something creative, that's us. And so you'll actually see a lot of like blending in what we do and what some of the other areas will do as well. Like on this screen, you see it says web pages. Part of our industry, and we'll talk more about this later, part of our industry is like building web pages. But in the process of building web pages, usually there is like the sketches and the research and all of that stuff. That's the art side. There's also building what the web pages look like, still the art side. There's making a semi-functional web page or a, let's say an advanced web page, right? That's still us. When you get to the Amazon where they're actually like doing like reading your cookies and recommending things and having shopping carts and all of that, that's where we start to get into like the programming side of things. So our industry works with a lot of other areas too. Ours is, again, it's typically the more creative or production side of things. The arts industry is a almost $1 trillion economy. You'll see a lot of things here where $17.5 billion is part of the movies and TV shows. 16.9 is in creative advertising. Those are typically like the areas that our students work in. There is an area at Macomb and other schools like CCS that do jewelry, that do blown glass and pottery and all of that. I'm not going to talk about those areas, but those are also important areas. Again, creative parts of things. They just are not my wheelhouse. Okay, so my area, what we train for is creative imaging or creative advertising, and then like movie, TV show, video games, that kind of stuff. The growth in our industry is insane. Like since 2010, you can see that we've gone from about 500 billion dollars to almost over $900 billion, and the amount of jobs has gone over 5 million jobs in the industry. And here's a little breakdown of some of those areas. Now, it's hard to look at these and classify something. So that's one thing that you're always going to see when we look at any of the data within our area, is that the definition of an art job or a creative job is not necessarily strictly defined, right? So if I'm going to work in a company and I'm going to be a welder, it has a very defined set of skills. Like you need to do this, 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 and then you're a welder, right? And that is a very defined job. As an artist, the jobs are literally all over the place. And some people in our industry might be a designer up here and a photographer, and they might do some writing and authoring. Like those are areas that people are all over the place. Okay, so it's not clear cut like some of the other ones. But you can see here, jobs of artists outrank all these other jobs, right? So tell that to your parents when they say there's no jobs in art. There's plenty of them. Now, who uses art? These are all companies locally that use what it is that we do. Now, years and years ago, and some of you who have maybe studied art at some point may already know this. Years ago, they used to have these huge studios. And if you were a company who wanted to, let's say, make a commercial, you would go to that company and you would say, hey, we want to make a commercial. So I'm going to use Domino's as an example. Hey, I'm Domino's. I want to make a commercial. Here's what we're thinking. And then that company would bring people together. They would storyboard out some concepts, some designs. They would pitch the commercial back to Domino's, and then Domino's would approve it. And then they would make the commercial and they would hand it off to Domino's. And then that would be it, maybe for 6 months, maybe for a year, until Domino's wanted to make another commercial. If the people at Domino's wanted a flyer, if they wanted a website, if they wanted any of those pieces, typically it was outsourced to another company, right? Now, because our software has gotten so sophisticated and artists have gotten so dang good at what they do nowadays, a lot of these companies are actually bringing those people into their actual business and doing those things right out of their business. So Domino's actually does do their own commercials. They do their own advertisement. They do their own social media. And that's a small team of people that are housed at Domino's doing those kinds of things, like Domino's corporate, obviously. I'm sure you've heard of Quicken Loans before. Everything that is that Quicken does, commercial-wise, advertising-wise, is done in-house. They have artists, they have animators, they have storyboard people, they have video people, they have editors, they have all of these different jobs right inside of Quicken. Now, one thing you may not know about Quicken is that Quicken is actually a piece of a bigger company called Rocket. And I believe Rocket's part of another bigger company called something else. That entity has jobs all over the place. Okay, so I'll show some examples of that later. But jobs are all over the place. Everyone is using what we're doing to some level, right? Find a company that doesn't use a logo, business cards, a letterhead, t-shirts, commercials, advertisements, any of that stuff. You'd be hard pressed to find any of that. When our students are looking for employment, typically they're going to bounce over to, one of these: Behance, LinkedIn, ArtStation. Let me hop this off there real quick. So this is just getting into like the kinds of jobs that are out there. This is creative heads. And so as students go through the industry, there's many avenues for them to find different areas. One thing about our industry is that there are literally jobs all over the world doing what we are training people to do. So like this is a company called Streamline Media Group in Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada. They're looking for a UX designer, back-end developers, front-end developers, SF product managers. The UX designer, that's the artist. These back-end and front-end developers, most likely they're going to be like the coding side of things. Okay. I'm going to scroll down. You can see like these are currently jobs that are just out there. Every company is going to be different. This one, they're looking for a 3D character animator. They're looking for a lead artist, a lead game designer, a mobile rendering engineer, probably a programmer guy, another programmer, a 3D lighting artist, a game artist generalist. Okay, and if I scroll down, this is today. Like if you went to that website, Creative Heads, and you looked at their jobs, this is what's going to come up. And so these are the kinds of things that our students utilize to find jobs. So it's not just about, you know, going to school and getting the job down the street. You could literally work all over the country doing this. This is Creative Heads, which is a site we use. This is ArtStation, which is another site we use. This is Behance, which is another site that we use. And these are all creative jobs that are out in the industry. I hit the wrong button. I meant to do that. There we go. Here's some examples of different jobs that are out there. So a medical illustrator. So we have students who want to work somewhere in the medical industry. They want to work with something healthcare related, but they don't want to work on people. They don't want to, you know, work in a lab. They enjoy the technicality of bones and muscles and tissue and ligaments and all of that, and they like illustrating. So this is a perfect job for them. And we have students who do this kind of thing in the industry. And you'll see some stuff like, you know, this specific job, work with a team of physicians, scientists, 3D modelers, and animators. Proficiency with the Creative Suite. Obviously, we're good at drawing the human figure, develop skills rapidly. Excellence in factual accuracy of illustrator work. Obviously, that's important. Now, this was a job that was up there. I think it was 2 years ago when I pulled this job off as an example. We just had a student get hired at a hospital, and what they do is that they'll actually take CT scan or MRI data. I forget if there's obviously a difference. I don't know which one specifically, but they would take that data and they would process it through these other pieces of software, and they would actually be able to build 3D models from that data. And that's their job, is just to take these scans that they've done of people's internal organs and then process it and actually extract, like, here's their liver. Then they can take that liver that they have and then print it, and then they could actually show the person, this is your liver, this spot right here, that's why you're having issues, that's what we need to fix. Or there's a tumor we need to address, this is what we're going to look at. And our artists are the ones doing those kinds of things. Now, they don't have a background in the medical field necessarily, but they're good at 3D. They're good at understanding those types of things. They're good at 3D printing. And they can work with those physicians and with those medical people who actually know this is the area that I need to get, and they can just grab those pieces out of there. This is a motion designer for the Tigers and Red Wings. So if you go to Tiger Stadium and you look at the scoreboards and you look at all those animations that they have, those are artists. Those are people in our field who actually build those elements. Now I'm going to switch over real quick to this and this. And oops, profiles is. So this is one of our students named Hannah. Now this is somebody who has worked in the medical field. She went to school for kinesiology. She has a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. She worked in the physical therapy and fitness arena for a number of years. And she just wanted to change everything. So she came to Macomb. She got her degree in motion design and 3D. And she started working at Quicken Loans. Okay, I mentioned before I was going to bring that back up. At Quicken, she was doing animations for bank software. So the new hires at Quicken would need to know how to run the software. So her team was responsible for building these animations that would show them this is how the software works. And she would do what's called motion graphics, where she does, we'll simplify this, just 2D animations of pieces happening, right? And I'm sure you've seen the little explainer videos of little characters walking around and showing how pieces work. That's what she used to do. Now, after she was at Quicken for a while, she actually got hired at another company in Ohio for the Cleveland Cavs doing, jump down here, doing this for the Cleveland Cavs. So her animations now are the ones that would play up on the Jumbotron. And now she's using these art skills that she has. She's using these 2D animation skills. She's using 3D animation skills to do all of these elements. Okay. Now, obviously, it helps if you're more sports geared, right? So some people like sports, and that's a great job for them because they're actually doing something that they love with their field, right? It's not like every day you get to draw or work for the Red Wings or the Tigers, but if that's what you're interested in or passionate about, then you get to pair those together. Even the FBI uses what we teach. So the FBI has jobs in audiovisual, photography, communications, graphic and physical design. If you, I don't know if any Dexter fans in the room right now, but if you've watched Dexter before, one of the jobs that they have there is that when there's a crime, the photographers will go out and they'll take pictures of all the area, and then they go and bring them back and they hang them on the wall, and then they look at them and try to figure out like what happened, right? Well, one of the recent things that's come through is what's called photogrammetry. And so the photographer is not just someone who just takes pictures and then prints them and hangs them on the wall. Maybe that's someone else's job to hang them. I don't know. But the photographer now will go in and they'll actually take hundreds of pictures of this entire scene. They'll use drones, they'll use cameras, whatever, and they'll actually rebuild in 3D that entire crime scene. So the FBI or police or whoever needs it can actually put on like a VR headset and go into the crime scene and actually like walk around and investigate it just like it was at the actual, as it was when they took the pictures. So we're seeing a lot of this evolution inside of our areas where, someone who's in photography, they may have gotten into it because they like taking photos, but that same person who studied photography might go over here and they're doing photography for weddings and event photography. The person next to that might be going there and photographing crime scenes, right? So there's jobs kind of like all over the place. Our program, and I'm using our program as an example of just how the industry works. But we have basically a core, a specialty, and a portfolio. Our core is to build a foundation, right? So you might get into a job in our industry, and you might only use like a sliver of your skills. Most of the time, the people in our industry don't want that sliver. They want this person who comes in very well rounded and can bounce around between different areas. And then, if they need them to work here, they can go here. If they need to work there, they can go over there, right? So our program is designed to give them a good foundation. Okay. Now, again, I'm using this to show the wide range of skills. So, and I'm using welder too, just as an example, because we're in Detroit. It's a very common job out in the industry. So if you're a welder, you're going to go through this class, this class, this class, this class, and then you will know how to do this kind of welding, right? Again, simplifying it. In our area, you're going to take photography, you're going to take design, you're going to take illustration fundamentals. You're taking like all of these different areas of how to build things, and then building basically your skill set so that when you go into a company, you can do any of those items. So like using the welder example, you might just be a welder, but in our industry, you're not going to be just a welder. You're going to be the one who is welding the stuff and building the stuff and designing the stuff and sending it out and doing the packaging for it and all of this, right? So we have to be kind of like in Detroit, especially the jack of all trades. Now, one thing that is really cool about our industry is that you can actually start making money off of things right away, okay? So some of our classes here, like digital illustration or intro to Photoshop, we're training people on skills that they can do right away. This is an example of something that is real world, something that you could get paid for. So this is a photograph that's been taken. So that right there is a job in our industry, someone who's going to be a portrait photographer. In this class, we don't take the photograph, we're just using a photograph. There are some freckles on here. There's a scar right there, and the model's eyes are not as vibrant as they want. So then the Photoshopper's job is to go through and clean all those pieces up. Now, this is a simplified version of what we do. But if you think about in our closets, I'm sure we have plenty of photos that may have scratches or cracks or folds or something's missing in it or the coloring isn't good or any of that stuff. People will pay for those types of things. So in our industry, we have what's called freelancing, which I'm sure no one's unfamiliar with, right? So we have students who do freelancing. They have a part of their business is to just recruit people who want stuff like that done. So they'll say, hey, if you have pictures you need retouched or modified or whatever, let me know and I'll go through them. Sometimes you're paid per picture. Sometimes you're paid, per hour or just as a collection, however you organize that. Now, this is like me, Sean, and then some random person like, one-on-one hiring. But this is also stuff that companies like GM and Ford and Chrysler will also do, right? So when they get pictures of cars or pictures of car parts, usually there's a process that goes through and they cut the car parts out, they clean up those pieces, maybe they erase a reflection that they didn't care for, or they even change the color of the car or the part or whatever. All of those things are things that are done in our industry. Now, later on in the class, we do this, which is a composite, which again is another part of our industry. This is another area. Before they go out and make a movie set, before they go out and actually build a full replica of what the actors and the scene is going to entail, typically they'll use Photoshop as a tool to show what the environment's going to look like. So here the students have cut out all these pieces and laid them out, and then they're working with reflections and shadows and highlights and everything else to get all of these individual elements to look like they're blended. So like every one of these mushrooms here and these rocks in the sky and this and these pieces of land and water, all of those are separate that they have to then put together. Now, this is not something that you're going to be doing out in the industry just based on this one class or this one assignment. You definitely could, but it's not likely, right? But there are people who do this kind of thing for a living. Okay. Now, once you have your base, oh, sorry, I wanted to show this here. So one of the other things, this is more of the freelancing side. So in that cluster of beginning courses, we're showing students how they can right away start making money off of their stuff. And some choose to do it, some choose not to do it, right? Some just don't care to do the freelancing, the gig economy type stuff, the side hustles. So this is another thing. So you can actually design your own patterns. You can upload them to sites like Spoonflower, and people can go to this site and buy them. So if you were looking here and you wanted to look for like Pac-Man, these are all designs that some artist has uploaded. And you can actually go to this site, buy this fabric, and then the artist will get money off of it. Now, this is something that right away, people in our industry can start doing. Okay, so once you understand the concept of this is how I build a piece of art, this is how I make it tileable, this is how I upload it, you're done. You can just start doing that process over and over again. And we'll have students who do this on a regular basis. Sometimes they're making, a few bucks a month. Sometimes it's a few hundred. Busy time, they might be making a few thousand a month extra. And all of their work that they did was right at the beginning. It was building that piece of art, uploading it, and then they're pretty much done. Okay, now we have students all over the place that do that. Now that can go further and further, right? So obviously these are very stylized, probably didn't take very long to build something like this. This is one of our graduates here. He does these. And so he does these high-res, super detailed illustrations. Now he's selling the illustrations through a place called Society 6. Okay, so like that's his pencil drawing of this. And if I go to here, here's the stuff that he's selling. So everywhere has a coupon. Is it close to Christmas time yet? I don't want this offer. So here's stuff like for $13, you can buy these coasters, or you can have this as a wall print. So again, these are things that students do typically in addition to their actual work. So it's important to show these kind of opportunities, because in our industry, you can make money in so many different ways. Let's jump back to here. Okay, now we have specialties, and the specialties in our area, they focus on a specific area, right? So motion design, interactive web. Degrees in our industry don't mean anything. Nobody's going to care about where you got your degree from. Nobody's going to care that you have 12 degrees. They want to see the work, okay? And that's something that does separate our industry from welding, again, as an example. To be a welder, you have to have a certification. In our industry, if you have really cool work, that's what they want to see, right? Each one of our specialties is a different sector of the industry, okay? There's overlap. They're not segregated. It's not just like this path or that path. It's typically this blending of paths. So I'm going to talk about some of the jobs that are out there inside each one of those. And again, this is, I think it's 9:03. I have limited time. There's literally hundreds of jobs inside each one of these areas. Okay. So web design is like interactive design. So right now we're using Zoom. Zoom has an interface, and artist has designed that interface. A UX, UI designer, user experience, user interface designer designed what that interface looks like. They pick the colors, they pick the fonts, they pick what the logos look like. All of those elements is interactive design. Now, they also designed it not only for the web page, but they also designed it for our phones, for our tablets, for all of these different devices to make sure that those work. The technology that goes behind Zoom and makes it actually functional, that's a different area. Again, that's not us. We're not the heavy duty programmers. Some of our students eventually do go into that, but most of ours are the surface level stuff. Now, the left thing here that you're seeing is actually a book. So this is an interactive book. The students scan the pages of the book. They clean all the pages up. So like that Photoshop stuff that I just showed, that's the tools that they're using to clean these things up. They have a little chapter thing at the bottom here. So whoever it is can click on page 1, page 2, page 3. The students have recorded their audio, and that audio gets then read back to them when they click the button. Some of the interactive pieces on the pages can be clicked and utilized to engage people a little bit more. So here we're looking at design, we're looking at Photoshop, we're looking at illustration in some cases, animation, audio editing, web page design or interactive design. And then depending on where it's going to end up, it could be that specific area. Now, that right there, that is not just a job, that is an entire industry that focuses just on that. If you have kids, I have kids, they're one of them's almost 18 now. When they were younger, they had these really cool books, these leapfrogs, and they would have this special pen, and you would put the special pen on these different areas, and it would read back those things. That's interactive design of how those things are coming together, right? So this is a huge area. Part of interactive design is also everything that's interactive. If you are on your computer, tablet, phone, yeah, those are interactive. When you're in your car, when you're driving, that dashboard, that player off to the side, that's also interactive design. Now, inside of those elements, we have people that work in different fields. So if you are the one who is designing the entire interface, that's a job, like designing what the entire interface looks like. When you click on things, what happens, what goes to the next page. There's also this part of what do the logos look like? When we're driving in a car, those logos, those designs are going to look completely different than the logos and designs for our phones. In some cases, not always, but in some cases, because as we're driving, we don't have the time to look over, figure out which button we're trying to click and then click it. We have to be able to glance and know exactly what button we're trying to get to, right? So those elements are there. Now, as we get into this kind of thing where we're not building something and then just putting it out here, we're building something and interacting with a person. So sometimes in interactive design, you'll have people that have this interest in psychology as well, of like how the mind works, how we engage people, what colors seem to be better for people, how we keep people on web pages, like all of that. And again, those are areas that kind of branch into this design, this interactive design region. We have creative imaging and illustration. So some parts of our industry is just illustrating, right? So Steve's stuff, who I just showed, that does the illustration, that's his side hustle, is that illustration stuff. I'll show his real job in a second. But there's people who just do illustration. Now, this could mean a number of things. When you see a character in a movie, that character in the movie is designed. Somebody has to go through and design those pieces. Bloop. This is not one of our students. I'm just showing this for two purposes. This is Aaron Blaze. So if you look at like this kind of stuff, he's made his entire living off of illustration. He was a Disney animator. These are, there's his stuff there. So if you've seen, I think Big Brother Bear, like he drew that. And he's done a bunch of other stuff too. He is a fantastic illustrator, fantastic artist. His entire career is built on doing exactly that. Now, we are a 2-year school. Our industry is built on this idea that we are never done learning. So we're always going out and doing further and further learning. So typically students who come through our program, they learn the stuff they need to, they start working in the industry. As they want to explore more, then they start to reach out to places like Aaron, who do like extra teaching stuff. So if you really want to get even more information or more training on traditional 2D illustration for Disney type animations, like that's who you would go to. Okay. Now this is Aaron Sims, which is the other one. He does character design for movies. Again, not one of our students, but just to show the example of that. So he does illustrations, and those illustrations then become movie characters. So if you've seen any movie character in the past 2 decades, typically Aaron and his company have had a hand in that. Like there's Rampage. If you've seen Hulk, if you've seen Stranger Things, if you've seen Turtles, if you've seen Planet of the Apes. So all of these things, this is Aaron's whole business, is to design characters for movies. Okay, so again, that's a lot of this creative imaging and illustration stuff can go to that level. It can also go down to this more simplified level of just illustrating stuff and selling it. So if you can kind of see behind me, I have these pieces of artwork on my wall there. Those are pieces of artwork that somebody illustrates, and they go around to shows and sell those. And they love doing that. They love going from shows and selling their artwork and meeting people. And that's another sector of that industry. There's also people who do storyboard art, where you want to tell a story. We're going to do a camera shoot. We need to know like what is going to be in each shot. How is it going to flow from one shot to the next? And someone does all those drawings. Okay. This is motion design. So this is one of our bigger areas right now. Hannah is working in motion design. Steve is also working in motion design. Bloop here and there. So this is Steve's side hustle, is this stuff, right? That's what he does. His actual job is this. So he does 2D animations, or sorry, motion design animations, not 2D. I'm going to open up his reel just so you can see this. Okay. So inside of that piece there, you're seeing a culmination of a lot of different things. So when we get to something like this, We're actually seeing illustration, we're seeing design, we're seeing Photoshop work, we're seeing Illustrator work, we're seeing 3D animation, 2D animation. We're seeing product, like you can see these product pieces being placed back here. That's all stuff in our industry. And sometimes we're going to work on projects as an individual, as like we are hired to do a job and our job is to do the entire thing. A lot of times we're going to be part of a team. So you might be one of, 10 or 100 people. I'm going to go to this Hawkeye thing. So this is one thing that's kind of changed a lot since COVID, is that, if you wanted to work on Hawkeye or, Disney or Marvel stuff, you'd have to live and have those connections like right there. But because COVID opened the doors to a lot of people working remotely, Steve, who works or lives here, actually worked on this project from here, from the Detroit area. And this is Steve's credit right there. And you can see just for this, if you've ever seen Hawkeye, this is the main title and visual effects. These are all the people right here that have worked on that project. Okay. So, and down here as well. So that's a lot of artists just for that one thing, just for this 60-second clip of stuff or 2-minute clip of stuff at the end of Hawkeye. And then the same thing with Lightyear. We've seen Lightyear. These are the visual effects that Steve did. And then his credit wherever it went. But those are the people that also worked on it. Right? Go back to this. Okay. So that's motion design, is that we're taking designs, illustrations, 3D pieces, 2D pieces, and we're bringing them to life. It might be for a piece of instructional work. So if I'm going to show how a body is built, right? So I can make that as a 3D animation and show the different layers of bone and tissue and muscle and veins and all that stuff. I could also do just like frame by frame drawing, and that's also a motion design. Okay. This is design and layout. So if you needed something designed for a logo or a business card or letterhead or a flyer or a poster or package design, that's all of those are individual industries. Sometimes it's, a company who focuses on package design or a company that focuses on letter design or a logo design. Sometimes it's the whole package. Sometimes you'll have a client who wants to come to you and they want the entire thing. They say, hey, we're building this brand new company. We want to know everything, or we want everything done. We want a logo. We want some letterheads. We want business cards. We want some flyers. We want this, this, this. Those, again, can be done by a huge company, and they can also be done by the individual person, depending on the client. Sometimes this process for doing this could be days, could be weeks, could be months. And you can charge, depending on the client, $20, $50, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Depending on the client, depending on what it is that they want. It all depends. Again, all of these skills you're seeing blending from all of those other pieces as well. So like this children's museum logo, someone designed that. A motion designer might animate it, right? In our program, we train people to be able to do both. So we want them to be able to design the logo and animate it. This piece here, this little magazine ad, that again could be something that's flat 2D just stuck there, or it could be something that's animated for their website, right? Our job as designer or as communicators is to help the client communicate what it is they want. So if they say we want it to be engaging, we want people to be excited about this thing, and it's just a flat, 2D advertisement, sure. But if they say we also want to take that and put it on our website, we want to use this as a bumper for our YouTube videos or for our TikToks or whatever it is, we do that too, right? So it's just, we're communicators. That's our whole job, is to communicate. Photography is also a huge industry. Students that graduate in this area might work as a event photographer, so like weddings and graduations and that kind of thing. They may also do product photography. Product photography typically has a bigger budget because you're working with companies, whereas wedding photography and that kind of stuff, you're working with individuals, right? Wedding photography still, like if anyone here has planned a wedding recently and looked at the cost of photography, to hire a photographer to come out and take photos of your wedding, it can be expensive. It can be thousands of dollars for that one day of photography, plus all the editing that they have to do, plus the cost of all the photos and printing and all of that. So there are people who they're busy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every week during the summer. And then they're kind of less busy throughout the rest of the year because that's the busy time for weddings, is to get that. So they can do that, product photography again. Now we'll also see later in this as well, is that this concepts of doing this product photography stuff, as an example, like this bottle here, we can apply those same concepts, those same ideas to 3D product photography, where we would actually build a 3D model of that Jones orange soda. And then we would put lights in there, put materials on it, and render it out. And then we would get, something similar. The label that's on here is also something that someone's designed. So now we're introducing the design aspect to that as well. Okay. So again, there's overlap between all of these different pieces. Here is collaborative. So a lot of students, number one, they may not know what they want to do, but some just want to be even more well-rounded. So someone who's working in social media may want to just have, instead of being specialized into one region, they may want to just touch on a lot of different things. So I'll give an example of that. One of our grads, he was a photographer. That's what he was initially wanting to do. But as he got into the industry, he found this company that does Our Magazine. And the company would send him out and he would do the photography for one of their spreads that they were doing inside of Our Magazine. And they also wanted him to shoot video. And they also wanted him to design the layout for the page. So his job, even though it was photography, it's spread out into digital video and it's spread out into the design side of things. So he was actually touching on the website. He was touching on video. He was touching on photography. He was touching on design. So there's a lot of different areas there. If you're working in social media and you're working at Domino's, we'll use that as an example. You might build a commercial for Domino's, and you might build their website, and you might build, 15 other things for them. Something like this is just a broader set of scales where you're not specializing. We have video production, which again, we're looking at these different areas. Now you could, in the video area, you could work on one field. So Aaron back here, who's holding this microphone, like that's a job in the industry, is just to hold the microphones. This is a job to operate the cameras, but you don't know what area you're going to go into. So, having that wide range of things is important, especially in Detroit. In the Detroit area, people want you to be diverse. They want you to know how to do all of these, because you might have to go out and shoot a commercial or something, and you have to do all of those different pieces. So let me go to this one. So I don't have the audio on this one. I have the audio. I'm just going to turn it down so I can talk over it. But this is one of our students who is works at the Leader Dogs for the Blind. And at Leader Dogs for the Blind, they do their website, they do their advertisements, they do the photography, they do the video. So having that one set of skills in 3D or 2D wouldn't really function. They need to have multiple pieces. And so that's what they're able to do. Now, Cheryl also, when she was a student, she went through our program. She actually did rescue for not German Shepherds, Great Danes. She had participated in a Great Dane rescue. And so when she graduated, she found this job at Leader Dogs for the Blind, working with dogs. And she is basically like their voice for what they want to communicate to the world. And she wouldn't be able to do all of that without knowing photography and video and web page design and all the stuff that she is doing. And then we have 3D animation, which is everything. Like 3D can go into so many different areas. Like Steve's stuff here, there are some 3D elements to it. There are some 2D elements to it. There's such a blend now with all the stuff that is happening in the industry. Like some of these that Aaron has are also like 3D models that he's built. And just to show you the diversity of it, there's actually a whole software designed to cloth design in 3D. Okay, so like these outfits that this guy is wearing are actually designed in 3D to fit, to work with this 3D character. Now you could build props, you could build environments, you could build little pieces of things that you then 3D print. And again, that's another industry. People on Etsy, if you go onto Etsy and look up 3D print, you find hundreds of people that are just selling their 3D prints. And it's like one of those things where you just build it once and you're good to go. Okay. We also have people who work in character animation stuff. So if you've seen Star Wars, or you've seen Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, or you've seen Mortal Kombat, or like a lot of these things, people in our industry are working on those types of pieces. They're working on characters, or working on environments. Anything 3D, that's there. Again, if I had another 4 hours, I could go through everything that's out there with that, or at least more detail. But
I want to interrupt because we are running out of time. Can you give the counselor some advice then for the students? So, I mean, this is amazing. I could watch this all day, but could you talk to them about, I often have students that want to be video game designers, right? Like, what is a good first step or initial first step for a student looking to go into any of this industry, looking at certification versus degree, that kind of stuff?
Sure. So the biggest thing with all of this is exposure. So that exact topic comes up a lot. So I want to build video games. In the video game world, there's like 500 jobs that you could do inside the video game world. So which part of that do you want to do? Do you want to do like, I want to build environments? Do you want to build people? Do you want to do the animations for it? Do you want to build the weaponry? Do you want to make the explosions? Like, which part of that do you want to do? So the student just literally trying things out is the best way to do that. Okay. There are so many different areas that you could go into. I would say if you have students, have them reach out to any of the schools. So like, we're always open to having people come in, talk to them, show them stuff, even if they want to sit in a class and hang out and just meet some of the other students or see what we're working on. Like, we're cool with that. Like, we want people to be aware of it. We know that no one is going to be an expert, or no one's going to know 100% what they want to do until they actually do it. So part of their education, part of their journey is going to be to explore these things. And there's nothing that I can say or do to get them to know exactly what they want to do. They have to get to that realization themselves. When I went through school, I graduated high school, I got into Macomb. I tried 4 or 5 different areas before I landed on design and Photoshop. And then I was like, cool, I like this. I did some freelancing for design, some freelancing for photography. And I'm like, this is my career. Right at the last minute, I got into 3D, and that's where I've really focused my stuff on. So I've gone all over the place. Some of our people will do what's called data analytics. They'll look at just numbers of how people get to websites, and they'll work with that kind of information. So I would say any student who's interested, if you can find a workshop for them to go to, if you can find even a class, like I know like a lot of the schools in our area do dual enrollment. So if they can take a class, if you could have us out or another school out and just do a presentation to the students about some of the different areas that are out there, that's going to be a little bit more effective than, them just guessing, right? Yeah. And obviously making smart choices in where they're going to go and what they're going to do with their stuff.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions? I see Wendy. Who would they contact to come in and see the program? So we wanted students to be able to come and visit your lab and stuff.
So this QR code, this is dual purpose. So this has my contact information, so you can contact me directly. I do recruiting. I'm not a recruiter, right? So part of Macomb is we do our own stuff for these kinds of programs. We don't hire 50 recruiters to go around the world and find people. It's us, the people who are sitting there talking about our programs are the ones who are teaching the classes. So contact me, let me know, hey, I want to bring some students, and I want to, like pre-COVID, we had a whole school come over to our area, and we spent 3 hours with the students, and we went through some design stuff, we went through some animation stuff, just so they can get an understanding of what it is outside of their classroom in high school that we're doing in college. And, you know, we're a community college. We are here for the community. We're here to make sure that we help students get to those next steps, whatever they may be.
Awesome.
But this also has this QR code. I'll send the link to. Actually, I was going to put it in the chat. But it is my contact information, and there's some website links as well. I don't know where my chat box went. Well, I'll send it to Sarah, and then Sarah will have it.
Yep. Sean, are you comfortable with your slide deck being shared at all? Your PowerPoint?
Oh, I am. Yeah, no
Okay,
problem.
awesome. If you could send that to me, everybody, I'll make sure that you get it. Any other questions? It was amazing. I'm not gonna lie, this has been probably a very weak area of exposure for all of us as school counselors, and we do struggle with students. They tend to be not very outgoing, a lot of them, to be honest. Their world is doing this kind of work, and I really am excited to hear about all these great opportunities that employment opportunities that exist for them. I mean, it makes sense. There's so much out there, but we just never put necessarily attach a career to the things that we see. Someone had to design all that, so it's amazing.
Thank you. And one more just note on, you know, how we're set up as a community college versus like a 4-year. When students apply to Macomb, they can just take classes. They don't have to apply to 3D or design or whatever. So our students who initially come in, they'll kind of bounce around literally for a little bit, just trying to figure it out. When you apply to some 4 years, you're applying to that specific 4-year, and if you want to switch to a different degree, you have to totally apply to that one and then see if you get accepted to it. So, you know, that's one of the nice things about this, is that you're not locked into it. You have the ability to explore. And then once you decide, yeah, transfer to another school, take all your credits and then transfer them over there, take your portfolio and transfer. But definitely, you know, do it affordably, because, you know, you can make great money in this industry, but you can also take on great debt too at some of these schools that are, you know, you're going to go 200 grand in debt at some of the bigger schools.
Yeah, CCS is amazing, but not cheap.
No, and same thing with SCAD and, you know, Full Sail and all that. And we have students who transfer down to those and over to those, but usually they're working in the industry if they can. That way they can at least make it affordable.
Absolutely. Okay, so as we wrap up, your password for today is